stage.
Everything's a bit bigger in Texas, isn't it? But as we know and as we understand, this is not necessarily the case when it comes to Texas Motor Speedway. This is a really difficult challenge today, and one which I'm sure will be about how quickly you can run around this track. A lot of corner banking, not really much in terms of speed drop-off as they go around this place. This is high speed and high thrill, and you've got to master the draft today to make it happen around this track. You can see overcast conditions make this track a rather cold affair here for this one. I'm Jake Sperry, bringing you action of your Crest Autosport IndyCar iRacing Oval League, and it is, of course, Texas, the 5th round, where we find ourselves today. This is not always the easiest challenge to find in terms of the world, but we know just how important battles can be when we get ourselves into total play. And our total play today is going to be important, and of course it's brought to you by Apex Tracks, the motorsport and motor racing circuit all-art racetrack sculpture creators, manufactured using F1 and motorsport inspired rapid prototyping technologies. That of course goes with Track Racer, lovely stickers, 603 Autosport, Digital Motorsport, Esports Sim, the GP bot. In terms of where we are, half the distance in the championship is next time out. And the battles are going to be important today. A very, very good win for Alex Everitt last time out when we were racing at our last event. Really got ourselves into play with the season. Of course, Twin Ring Motegi brought the thrills and the spills in the final moments of the race, but it's going to be about how they manage themselves here today, as there is Alex Everitt on the back end of practice, looking towards qualifying soon when it comes to our action. This is the schedule that we've got. So we're here, round 5, Texas Legacy. We were scheduled originally to go to Indianapolis. That's been bumped back to the end of the calendar. So as such, it will be Richmond next time out, 1 week from today. So that'll be definitely worth an eye out on at this point in time. And of course, you've got Kansas, Nashville, Michigan Legacy, Kentucky, Chicagoland, and Indianapolis, the final resting place of the championship this season. So, with that all in mind, they know what they need to do over this. The winner of the series will get themselves a prize provided by Apex Tracks, a sculpture of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway to pin up on their wall. And of course, the top 3 drivers of the championship will all be getting plaques, as well as the winner of the final round provided by Uncle Luke's sign and sticker shop. And this is going to even be something to work on here as drivers get themselves those final practices in. If you are brand new into the series, you can join in. It costs £4 to join for the remainder of the season, or 50 pence a race, not much. All drivers have 2 drop rounds, so attendance at all races is not required to be competitive at this point in time. So there's always going to be an element here as we go through. There are the championship standings. You can see it's a 7-point swing for Alex Everitt versus Thijs Barendregt. And Barendregt, of course, with the warning from last week after that move down to the apron on the final lap of the race. So it certainly does show You need to be there. Andy Scott in third and Dave Steadman fourth in the championship. No Alexander Rogenbach, despite the fact that his consistency has brought him to fifth position in the championship so far. So keep that in mind as drivers look to get themselves in their best possible places here today. But it's going to be interesting to see how practice goes. We do have a brand new driver here into the series, and that driver is at the very, very top of the times. It's the German number 44 of Tim Stroh, and Stroh has been doing a pretty good job of the early stages of practice. A 24.034 has been unmatched at this point in time. He's been running those 24s quite nicely over the course of races. Morales is currently second fastest in the number 18 machine, so maybe having a bit more love in practice around this place. And those 2 laps, those 5 minutes in qualifying, they could be important today, as Morales does find the wall there. It is a very tough track to get down onto the apron for. So that'll be another thing, as Barendregt finding out why it's very difficult through the tri-oval section. And just going through, was low on the apron through 3 and coming out of 4, just lost the back end, and a heavy hit into the wall pretty much does that. But practice then is over and done with. That's a nice doughy to finish off for Ollie Peters and Dave Steadman going through. So let's take ourselves down to qualifying now. With all that's coming up, who wants to set a lap where? 11 drivers here today. Fran Herrera has returned. And in terms of Texas last time out, Texas last time it was seen when it came to iRacing, saw Keegan Leahy become the new Coke Esports champion. So a very important run being sorted by that metric. But it's all about getting up to speed quickly. 2 laps to get that done. There is Dave Steadman looking to get himself out on track and put some good times in on the board. Has been knocking on the door of some strong finishes and has been climbing up the standings. He's sort of been a best of the rest style driver. But as we take ourselves from the driver's eyes perspective, this really awkward, I would say, parallelogram trapezium going through in towards 1 and 2. You don't really have to do too much lifting, at least early on. Later on in the stint, the tyres started to fall away. That's when you start thinking about, okay, maybe you do have to start lifting a little bit. 3 and 4, nice and low. Maximise the circuit off of the exit. Stays in the middle track, though, to get nice and narrow. That's a 24.318 on the board. Alex Everitt, a 24.2, is a little bit quicker than that. But we are starting to see those first times to jump in. Barendregt moving up into second position. Jürgen Pedersen had something come up last week, so he is in 4th fastest at this point in time. So the times certainly are creeping in. Everitt looking to improve on lap time. Jeremy Pronk to the top. Morales beats him by 9 thousandths of a second, and Everitt only goes 3rd. Ollie Peters' second lap goes 2nd fastest. So some interesting times being found. Pronk still got another lap. So too has Morales at this point in time. Barendregt finds himself 5 thousandths clear at the moment, a 24.145. So that certainly has paid off. But Pronk with a 24 flat goes quickest. Morales still 2nd fastest, and we still haven't seen any times yet from Timothy Stroh or Fran Herrera out on track. Same as well to be said for Andy Scott as we look with Stroh at this point in time, flicking up into 5th gear. I think he's using this opening lap to get himself up to speed. Only wants 1 lap to get himself the best possible time available. You can see he's running the high line out there on circuit, trying to give himself that big drop down through 3 and 4, give him as much pace as possible. He knows that only 1 lap matters, and it's this one. So a 24.9 gearing it up, and now this is the big attempt. 353 kilometers an hour down to just 350 through this section. He is really going for it with, of course, Jeremy Pronk currently fastest. Alfredo Morales in 2nd. Fran Herrera's lap 24.362. So really close here these times. But Stroh through the line. How good's it going to be? It's an 0.51. It's pole for Timothy Stroh. And he made sure he waited for absolutely everyone. Only Fran Herrera can go faster on a 24.3 The Spaniard is at the moment, but in the wall, pushing too hard. That lap will not count as he spirals across the line, trying to get that one slowed. So a shame there to see that lap end. Andy Scott does have time to go out, but traditionally we expect Andy Scott not to set a time, go from the back and see where it happens from there. So confirmation then that qualifying is pretty much all there, and it is the newbie, Timothy Stroh, who puts it up on the front at 24.051. Jeremy Pronk and Alfredo Morales, second and third. I'm not sure many people were expecting the two title contenders to be fifth and sixth in qualifying, as they can see the road course spiraling around here, this Texas Legacy circuit. Of course, no road course, I do believe, in the new variant on iRacing, so that's always something to keep in mind. And a track which, by every single intent and purpose, is about just keeping yourself in the groove and in the rhythm. It's 100 laps here today's worth of racing, and it's going to go by pretty much in the blink of an eye, unless someone does tag the wall because of those high speeds around here today. We are expecting a lot of cautions to bring themselves into that. No chance for Andy Scott to get out, so we can confirm how the grid will look, and it will look as follows. Timothy Stroh in control in the 44, with Jeremy Pronk in second, and Alfredo Morales is third. Second row is all ALP, as Leonardo Paletta put a time good enough for fourth place. Thijs Barendregt fifth, ahead of Alex Everitt in sixth. Then it's Ollie Peters seventh, Dave Stedman in eighth, Jürgen Pedersen, Fran Herrera ninth, 10th, with Andy Scott in 11th position, rounding out the field. So as they go to their 5-minute warm-up, get themselves the last few checks in on what they need to be doing. This is going to be a track very, very dependent on how you manage to get yourself around. We've seen time and again that this is a very, very tough place to go and make moves. And you really have to set it up from a long way back to work the corners around this place to make it happen. Drivers will be very, very careful about spinning it going onto the banking. So keep an eye out on those drivers, just having the back swap around on them, or even understeer with the dirty air effect that goes in, that aero wash around these circuits. That's another thing that can be a huge cause of contention as drivers try and pick up as much as they can around here. There is Stedman out on circuit, but the key is Everitt and Barendregt here using this warm-up, try and see how an overtake will happen. Everitt on that top line, not being able to make it happen immediately, but again, that's what happens when you defend, and I'm not going to give you the pleasure of making an overtake there. Thijs Barendregt diving in, the Basic Racing team, and finding out why it's difficult to come into the pits there, and straight back out on circuit there, slams into Alfredo Morales, and that's going to be another thing. Drivers are going to have to be alert to move, otherwise there's going to be a huge accident just like that, and that is a caution-bringing accident there. There's nothing Morales could do in that situation, so that could very easily be the end for drivers. They do have the one fast repair, but that will take them laps down, and this might be a race today where we see a lot of cautions bring themselves out into play. Of course, we had a caution as Stedman absolutely clobbers the wall coming out of two. That'll be I am diving into the pits then on that, but it's going to be an interesting one with the weight jacker. You might see drivers bring their weight jacker all the way down, as there is Stroh, or there was Stroh for a moment. There is Stroh moving around, and the key that we're going to be seeing today is that you might see drivers make dramatic changes on the weight jacker, bring themselves in towards pit lane to make sure that they're going to be good on the flat, because it is a very rare sight to see such an expansive and tight turn on the flat. If you've got the weight jacker all the way up, very easy for that rear when it's stacked up in comparison. The rear right, that's where the weight jacker is. That's stacked up and you're going into the corner. That's how very quickly you can find yourself in troubles as you look to attempt to pit. So pitting's going to be something planned out. It's not going to be something that you do on the whims of drivers, I would say, fantasy. But it's going to be interesting. We're going to see how they do over the course of today. We do expect these laps to go quickly. If it stays green all the way for 100 laps, we should be done by proxy in about 35 minutes. But if we are flying about a little bit quicker than that, then we should be going for a really, really fun time at Texas. A little struggle there for Alfredo Morales coming out of the pits. He's slid around and spun the car, but there's Ollie Peters, or there was Alfredo Morales there. But there is Ollie Peters looking for a good run. Has been a little bit tired of being the cause of cautions, and has been the cause of the last 2 cautions in this series. So Ollie wants to get back on track in the 1-2-1 and get a strong result going. Has Timothy Stroh just behind, who will be looking for a good run and a good result today. As they're off the road in trouble, I believe, was Everitt. So Everitt finding a bit of trouble there, trying to practice coming down into the pits, and once again, back end stepping out, and that's going to be a problem, I feel, today. Drivers trying to pit. We've seen Barendregt run into it, we've seen Everitt run into it, Morales has struggled coming out. It's going to be a tall order today. So I'm pretty sure a lot of the drivers are going to be hoping that they will pit under caution if and when one does happen. It might just be the battle today. There's the track map. You can see it's a lot different to some of the other ovals that you find out. They're very much part of the 1.5 miler club, which is traditionally, as you put it, cookie cutter. It's not quite as cookie or as cutter as people would tend to find here, as we are in Fort Worth, Texas here today, looking to get as much as possible out of the result. But we are getting ready. The checker flag is out. They will take themselves over towards the grid. It's a rolling start as usual. They'll be behind the iRacing sedan, most likely. And it's going to be a challenge here to get yourself into play. So confirmation of how they are gridded up once again. For those of you who are just jumping in, it is Tim Stroh, the German, on pole position. It's the Dutchman alongside for the Dutch sim racing team, Jeremy Pronk, there in second. Alfredo Morales will go from third, with Leonardo Paletta fourth. Then it's Thijs Barendregt and Alex Everitt, the 2 title contenders, 5th and 6th on the grid as things stand. Ollie Peters goes from 7th, with Dave Steadman 8th. Jürgen Pedersen is 9th, Fran Herrera in 10th, and Andy Scott is 11th after not setting a time and is expected to take to the grid at the back. All 11 then already onto the grid. They're going to waste 0 time. They're going to drive around with the iRacing sedan safety car, and there will be no lights on the sedan, I do believe, and as such we will be going green pretty much immediately, the 1 pace lap here at Texas Motor Speedway. And there is the drivers that we focus on. Timothy Stroh looking for everything that we want, and everything that we need is going to be pretty much on calm. So we should be in for a real challenge. I'm sure that the likes of Stroh and Pronk know they need a good start. Morales and Paletta, the 2 ALP cars, know that they've got what it takes to make good progress early. They've been known to use tyre up early as well, so keep that in mind as they start to challenge. What about those 2 in 5th and 6th? They've got a really good opportunity to make something happen, and of course everything's bigger in Texas, and it seems that it could very well be. The accidents today are bigger in Texas as well. Through 3 and 4 then, Stroh will have control of the field. He'll have to be careful about Pronk on the outside. You can only overtake in iRacing on the outside on a restart, or on any start, so to speak. Otherwise, you'll be jumping the line as the pace car dives down in. Let's get ready. Green flag is up in the air. We wait, and there's the go, and it's an early go at that. The green and go. Everett's been alert to it, immediately pushing it 3 wide behind. They go through the fight for 2nd and 3rd. Still there as Pronk has a look, but Everitt trying the uber high line. Barendrecht got low and got exactly what was wanted. Paletta was slow to the uptake, and Everitt stuck on the outside now. It's going to be under pressure from his teammate Ollie Peters. For 2nd and 3rd comes the look. Pronk looking high. That's not going to work. Morales moves up into 2nd position. So Timothy Stroh getting exactly what was wanted up to start. Andy in trouble, and so's Jürgen Pedersen. Pedersen in the wall then, and buried in there. On top of that, we stay green here at Texas. So Pedersen out of the race, didn't cause a caution because it was under the apron. that's going to be one of the things to keep in mind. Dot, of course, was a little bit slow on the opening laps, trying to get up to speed. And a little look from Paletta versus Everitt, then trying to get through. He's now behind Ollie Peters, not the start that Alex wanted. He said he likes Texas, but at the moment, Texas is not liking him off of the start. Morales is in second, Pronk in third, Barendregt fourth. 3 laps, we are already on the third lap of 100 here today around this place. A lot of drivers taking to the high line early, wanted to get that 2-groove racing into play, but for the time being, doesn't look like that is happening. And the gap forming here from Ollie Peters to Thijs Barendregt as Jeremy Pronk searching as Everitt looks low, trying to get the move done on Paletta. Paletta had to leave the door open there, and no team orders being applied in, so Paletta takes about a half a car into 3 and 4, but being stuck on that high line, need that drive off the exit. That's going to be where the keys to the race are had, but it's not going to happen as Everitt will take the place, moving in towards 1 and 2. Lovely and jubbly getting it done. There is Barendregt in 4th position. Jeremy Pronk just in front, and Barendrecht's got to build a gap early. He's got to get some points between himself and Alex Everitt, bring the gap down in round 5 of the championship. If now's the time to do it, it is certainly that. They are keeping well in range in the early goings. Timothy Stroh losing 0.2 of a second then to Morales as Pedersen using that fast repair. Get himself back out, and Pronk almost smashing into the wall. Coming out of 2 there. Just getting a little bit lazy through that section. Very easy to do. You take the lap as easily as you like, but the moment you start switching off, that's when the incident happens. I think Jeremy Pronk has got to be a little bit careful about that. There is that aero push that comes into play and can cause a bit of mayhem around this Texas track. So, at least for the moment, the front 6 all in line, front 7 even all in line. About 0.8 of a second back is Dave Steadman. He's got a lot of work to do to stay with the group at this point in time. There is Dave Steadman out there on screen in 8th position, and he'll be certainly looking to try and get back into line as soon as possible. You are seeing those probing lines taken, drivers trying to get themselves outside the line, and Stroh just having a little look actually down low side, try and break a bit of toe from Alfredo Morales. Doesn't want him to get any closer in the 18 ALP car. The Venezuelan resides in Canada. The gap now down to just 3.25 of a second at the front of field. You're seeing those times in green are fast laps that they have set over the course. So Everitt and Paletta setting their quickest times. There is Alfredo Morales looking to try and get as much as possible out of this as things go. And Barendrecht in trouble, and so too is Fran Herrera. And the front's off the wheel of Fran. So he's found the wall on the back stretch. So Fran Herrera, you can see that is not a clean car. Grabbed the wall coming out of 2. Smashed it in, and fortunately was in a straight line by the time he came up the circuit, and he spun it in his box. So Fran Herrera having an absolute nightmare, and takes the toe in. Hopefully he didn't have to take the toe for an entire lap from where he was in station. Still though, got a lead here of Stroh versus Morales, the battle at the front. There is Jeremy Pronk in 3rd. Barendregt falling back into the clutches of Ollie Peters in 5th place, and 6th is Alex Everitt. So Morales getting himself really close here. This might be the time we start seeing those moves. Gap down to 0.1 of a second. Looks to the high side, trying to mastermind that run. But Morales cannot find it at this point in time. Herrera's going to come out of the pits there on the bottom left. There just in front of them. But again, about setting up that run. Aero wash comes through. It's getting caught on the outside wheel. Not going to give you that much help here if you're Alfredo Morales. And now Herrera and Barendregt here as they go up to speed. This is going to be awkward with traffic here today. As back out to the pits then again is Jürgen Pedersen. He's had another moment. He does not like Texas, it seems. It does the Danish driver. But there is Peters trying to make his way through. Everitt trying to go low. And have to check out of it there. And that will kill the run. Paletta's now going to try and think, I've got a way through, but there was no way through there. The track was completely covered up as they were too wide. Very small circuit in a sense for Texas. We've got not much room to go around any place, and Paletta's chance gone in the wall. Jeremy Pronk in the fence and around on the apron. There will be no caution because he is on the apron. And again, it was tagging it out of 2 potentially. He just grabs it out of 2, tries to recover it. The car fishtailing everywhere, and he throws it in the wall. Jeremy Pronk, now look how much crabbing Jeremy Pronk's car has as he smashes it against the wall. He'll have to take the tow, and into the pits Pronk goes. So it's a real shame, but again, it goes to show you Texas is a different challenge, and it's not going to be easy here on lap 16 out of 100. And we've seen those wrecks in the wall, and because of the iRacing automated system with safety cars, it is a case of when a caution is called, you have to have the accident and be spinning on the track for it to be called as a safety car. So Stroh leads, Morales second, Barendregt up to third, Peters fourth, Everitt fifth, Paletta is in sixth, and Dave Steadman now in 7th position. Andy Scott quietly driving about in 8th place. Will be ahead of Pronk and Herrera and those drivers, and expect to see a couple laps lost here today from those who pit under green flags. So that's always going to be a challenge. If a caution comes out under the green flag, you might be in a bit of trouble if you've already pitted. So that's still something to keep in mind. The gap now almost a second here, as here comes the look low. Alex Everitt comfortably getting by Ollie Peters on that high line. He's opened the door up though for Leonardo Paletta to start searching low. Lap 18, try and get that pass done following in the wheel tracks of Alex Everitt, and gets it done through 3 and 4. So Ollie Peters drops 2 places for a cup of coffee, some would say, out there on track. Pronk now coming out of the pits, will be looking to get up to speed quickly. Will now be in a race with Fran Herrera, as they are very much there, or it might be a lap's lead now for Fran going around track. So I think it is a lap ahead. Fran Herrera finds himself now on Jeremy Pronk, and that is the case. 1 second broken though for Timothy Stroh, who leads the field outright here on lap 20. We are 1/5 of the way through this race. It's taken us about 8 minutes to make that happen. So times 8 by 5, you're going to get yourself about 40. 8 by 5, is that right? Yes, it is. So as you know, commentators can't do math, so 8 by 5 is 40, and it should take about 40 to about 38 minutes for a full green flag run towards the end of this race to conduct itself here today. So how is this going to play out at this stage? You've got Everitt in 4th, Paletta there in 5th. We're focusing on Paletta right now, making that progress through 3 and 4. And question is going to be on strategy as well. Question of whether it's going to be a 1 or a 2. They are going rather aggressively today in terms of pace. We might see a little bit of fuel saving getting itself in. Morales really dropping back now to get 8 tenths here. Thijs Barendregt, who is able to run really solidly up near the front. But Paletta doing a good enough job right now to keep himself in range of Alex Everitt. And again, it does take you a couple laps. If you're within about 3-4 tenths of a second, you've maybe got a half chance. But outside of that, you are really trying to battle to get yourself into play. And it's going to be a battle. So let's have a look then from Paletta's hoop. See if he can get himself a chance to attack. Not yet at the moment. You can see the cars that are battling in front is Jeremy Pronk trying to unlap himself on Thijs Barendregt, and Barendregt obliges, knowing that he can grab a tow from Jeremy Pronk that can pull him along for the ride. So there is always that available out there on circuit as they look to challenge, and a challenge is very much what we see. No chance of a move being concocted at the moment. Someone who's really dropping back though is Ollie Peters here. He is really not having any love. And 24.9 that time by. Dave Steadman's now got a real chance to figure out a pass. And coming out of 2, they get close, but it's going to be about how you manage this one through 3 and 4. The low line certainly is paying off, and it still does. Peters, though, still there on the outside. You always get that ability to go closer through the tri-oval, so to speak, that trapezium oval, and through goes Steadman with a comfortable pass. Peters will try and come back immediately here, and looking high try and make that happen, but again, he's going to wash out a little bit, so Steadman was able to get that move done, and Morales now overtaken by Pronk, trying to drive on through. They formed their own little packs of 2 here, and again, Peters looking high side, trying to get there, but Dave Steadman is doing quite about enough. Morales, gap now was 6/10 of a second. It is crawling back in again here by Barendregt, who used the toe fantastically to advantage, and here's the difference maker. It's half a second losing now Paletta, because Morales has been traditional in the first part of the stint. He looks really good as he gets really close to the wall. The second part, to pardon the pun, he is sometimes as slow as Morales, and he would definitely not want to be that as closer to the end of racing here. He's got to figure out why the tyres are going away so aggressively. Paletta now also struggling as he's falling away from Alex Everitt, but Barendregt again starting to search the high line, hoping that there is a move available. It's costing him time here, being stuck behind. As he searches down low, there's not much Morales can do, as through goes Thijs Barendregt up into second position. Fran Herrera now out of the race in this one, had brought it back down into the pits, had grabbed the wall coming out of 4, it looks like, and after slowing it down, trying to make the pit, didn't quite pay off, missed the pit lane by a fair margin. The race over for Fran. That will be a retirement there for the Spaniard. Meanwhile, Barendregt not over and done with. Morales trying to attack back, looks on the high side to try and pick that off, but that's not working in terms of this. It's about 1.1 seconds now back to Everitt, who's really trying to dig here to get back into play. And Timothy Stroh knows that he's in a race as well, as he will have Jeremy Pronk trying to unlap himself on top of that as well. There is Morales, keeping himself nicely in a situated position, knowing that this isn't going to be the easiest challenge today around this very, very difficult Fort Worth circuit here at Texas Motor Speedway. Everitt charging through in 4th place, lap 32 of 100. No cautions, but a lot of incidents that have gone solo to the apron has been the issue that we have found here today. And there is Barendregt in second position, 3.2 seconds back now of Timothy Stroh, who is ahead of everyone by a sizable margin. There is Leonardo Paletta, keeping himself honest in 5th position. Seems like he's worked it into a tyre range that he can feel comfortable with. Took a good couple tenths there out of Everitt on that last attempt through. And Pronk now through on Timothy Stroh. And there you go. Alex Everitt in the wall. Blink and you miss it. Coming out of 4, or coming out of 2, sorry. Just tags the wall. Soft tag. Had to go down low to cover it. Got himself back going, but he's got to do work again here. And the question is, how much damage to the tyres, and will that force an early stop? He's got to get within range. And you feel Everitt now will be limping his way around. It'll take a couple laps to get himself back up to speed again, but my goodness. Championship leader tags the wall through turn number 2. And that suddenly brings the race a little bit more into Barendrecht's favour. Gains another little second and another place, which means more point for Barendregt to close in, potentially take the championship lead away, heading to Richmond, the halfway stage of the season. Still though, Ollie Peters running around in P7. You've got Andy Scott quietly going about business in 8th place, getting up to speed. Stroh now really hitting a cliff here. It's another tenth to Thijs Barendregt, the gap down to 2.3 seconds. And it is starting to show. Stroh 24.8, Barendregt 24.4. He's absolutely flying. So looks like Stroh's used a lot of tyre early. Coming back to Barendregt here. And it's coming back to him at a rate of knot. So certainly is working. Everitt's time's 24.9 on that last attempt around. I think he's very firmly in 5th at this point in time. And because we are in overcast conditions, you know, this track is going to stay cold at 30 degrees. So drivers do find a second wind with the tyres. It's going to work. It's now down to 1.6 in about 5 laps. Barendregt is going to be there for the race lead. And that is going to work. So in the pits now is Ollie Peters. So Peters then has got himself in. It doesn't look like it's the traditional method, because he has spun it coming into the pit. And with that spin, no caution call, because he managed to get himself down low. But here's a look. That's Stedman, but it's Ollie Peters who had a massive spin into the grass. And Alex Everitt is down in the pits now, taking his stop. So a penalty for Ollie Peters for the way he came in. Alex Everitt then making his stop. Lap 36, start of 37. So we are starting to see drivers now figuring out where they need to be. 1.7 seconds the gap at the front between Timothy Stroh and Thijs Barendregt. A rivalry as old as time, Germany versus the Netherlands. Alfredo Morales third, Leonardo Paletta, the Italian, in 4th place. So Everitt now will be on a undercut to try and get himself back up through the field. And if it works or not, well, that will be another question entirely. Ollie Peters is coming out in a battle, mind you, this is. For position, 121 and 52. Jeremy Pronk down low. He's going to move up into 8th place with that pass. So another small little scrap that we're seeing. Peters going to try to go high, 3 laps down of the lead. And that doesn't quite pay out the way that it was necessarily intended to. So they've still got that to focus and think about the longer that this race goes on. Peters unable to manufacture the pass back despite the fresher tyres. Might take a couple laps to get into range, and they are closing in on Andy Scott, who is, by the way, only a couple seconds ahead of Timothy Stroh, who is due, mind you, to lap these drivers. Kronk leaves the door open. Peters goes low. And Ollie Peters moves back into 8th position with that pass. 3 laps down off of the lead at this point. Everitt is 1 lap down as things stand. Barendregt on lap 45, looking to figure it out. Stroh's got the pace back again. 1.8 seconds the gap, and it looks like the ALP cars are starting to fall backwards a little bit. Everitt doing 24.2s by comparison here, and that's going to be key. So 3/10 each lap on drivers in and around might bring him back into play the longer that they leave it towards those halfway stages of the race. So Stroh leaves Barendregt, Morales in 3rd, Paletta in 4th, Stedman currently in 5th for the time being. Andy Scott is due to be lapped next by your leader Timothy Stroh. But again, it's about how aggressive you can be into the pits. The WOD retirement so far today, Fran Herrera, Jürgen Pedersen still going out there on track, running 8 laps down at this moment, trying to get 100 laps out of his race. And just in front of Stroh, that's Andy Scott finding himself in the wall. Had just got himself a lap down. And that is no clip of the wall. That is just the back stepping away. If that's a call for tyres, then that is definitely a big call for tyres. And because of the way the banking is and how high the speeds are, expect the rights to really deteriorate quickly around this place as Stroh still holds that control, and we are heading towards the halfway stage of the race. Scott now in the pits. Leonardo Paletta we see in 4th position, bringing that gap back down in to Alfredo Morales. It's about 0.8 of a second. No takers then onto the lane this time around, aside from Scott. Oh, and Pedersen's in the wall. And he goes down low. So Jürgen Pedersen in the wall out of 1, had just been overtaken by Alex Everitt, and he just washes. That's all he does. Jürgen Pedersen just washes out. He'll be out of fast repairs. And yeah, Jürgen Pedersen's in trouble. In comes the leader though, Timothy Stroh, lap 49. Trying to get an undercut. Working as he dives into the pits. Barendregt is going to stay out. So too Morales, so too Paletta, so too Stedman. And now we've got a really interesting dynamic here as Barendregt jumps onto the apron. He's going to try and make his stop and makes it to the commitment code. And Morales is staying out. Actually, sorry, Morales is going in. Paletta is staying out. So Paletta looking for an option, and oh, trouble. That is Pronk. Jeremy Pronk in trouble. Was wiggling coming out of fourth, thrown it in the wall, and it was just over the line. Car snaps away over the stripe. And we didn't quite see it, but Pronk pretty much out of it now as things go. Barendregt looking to try and get up to pace here. Paletta is still out there. Andy Scott's going to go through, and Timothy Stroh is a long way back in comparison. So I wonder here if Timothy Stroh potentially sped on the lane or something to that ilk. He didn't spin. Just looked to me like he was very much there. That's all down to the fact that Timothy Stroh took a very pedestrian look as Paletta now dives onto the lane. Stedman's going to be coming off of the lane. Barendregt will be your race leader. Stroh in second. Everitt up then into third place. Fredo Morales coming out of the way again. And it was a long wait for Morales. So he's going to be in all sorts of trouble, you feel now, in this one. That's Andy Scott coming to make the overtake potentially. So we are seeing that the pit stops have been ideal for some, not ideal for others. And still I worry about Jürgen Pedersen, who is 11 laps down at this point in time, trying to get up to speed, or whether he's got a car that actually allows him to do so. Jeremy Pronk now confirmed as a retirement from this race. No way they can recover that car. It's done. But Morales here at this point in time has lost a lap by speeding into the pits. Barendregt your leader. Stroh is second. Everitt is third. You've got Paletta in fourth. You've got Stedman fifth. Fredo Morales now in sixth position after just making the pass on Scott. And there goes Pedersen. Slams it hard into the wall, down in the pit. That should be his race over. Was dealing with damage, and a real shame. This looks like it's been a race wrecker for many. And yeah, that will be that as they go around. Barendregt about to put a lap down on Andy Scott, who will fall to 2 laps down with this move. And he's looking very aggressively low. Scott has to open up the steering there midway through the corner to allow him through. Barendregt with control at this stage. Stroh the gap 2.6 seconds point in time. So there is a 20 lap difference right now. Alex Everitt, of course, pitting on his race was done on lap, if we look down through, lap 39.40 when he came down in on the pit. So I wouldn't say a 20 lap difference, but a 10 lap difference there between Everitt and Stroh, 11 between himself and Barendregt. So expect him to drop by quicker and give himself through. So a 10 lap difference then on the tyres. Sorry, got a bit of wrong information in my ears. But ultimately, it's going to be about how you manage this stint towards the end. We expect Everitt to go back. Question's going to be, will Stroh be able to close down Barendregt over this stint? Scott 2 laps down, Peters 2 laps down, Morales a lap down. Leonardo Paletta in 4th position, Dave Stedman currently in 5th. Andy Scott, though, looking consistent as always, and this consistency has brought him 3rd in the championship right now, and it looks like it may do exactly the same again as he goes through in the Quantum racing car. Stroh wants to give as much as he can, wants to give as much as possible. The gap is under 2 seconds, and he is grabbing a toe as he goes through, but that gap just staying there for a moment at 2 seconds, as Scott not making life easy for Stroh to get by. Now he ducks low, gives Stroh the high line to go around and search, and already has clearance, so they are already through. But it's telling, gaps are telling, the amount of drivers left in the field is telling. And a real focus now needed, as Stroh does pretty much enough of what is needed right now to get himself into play. still, though. We know that this is going to be one wrong mistake. Everitt's already had one. He's trying to recover that back. So expect Paletta maybe to come into play a little bit later on. 24.3 from Paletta on that lap. And from Everitt, a 24.5. So 0.2 of a second difference. The gap down to 3.8 out there overall at this point in time. And the gap remaining 2 seconds between Barendregt and Stroh down to 1.9. Again, you can see a difference of 0.2 of a second by time making that happen. Ollie Peters, by comparison to to Andy Scott, is about a third to half a lap back at this point in time. The battle for 7th and 8th position. Peters running 24.7s, 24.9s for Andy Scott. So that gap is slowly being clawed back in at this point in time. It's going to be a long haul to get into play to make this race happen. Give credit to Everitt. He's using the tyres while the sun's shining. He's got the gap to 1.2 between himself and Timothy Stroh. Stroh with that gap now down to 1.5 seconds. Everitt was matching that pace there, all bar a couple hundredths, so keeps the gap at 1.3. They catch Barendregt. It's going to be about how they make the move, but they are both catching Morales, who could go 2 laps down. Steadman looking pretty good in 5th position as well. There is Stroh. Just trying to manufacture his way through. We're 2/3 now through this race, so we're entering the final stages. Lap 66 of 100. One wrong move turns the race on its head, maybe like it does at Motegi. Stroh understanding what he needs to do, just slowly claw the gap back. 1.3 down to 1.2. And you've got Thijs Barendregt there in position number 1, doing all that he needs to at the moment, which is win this race. One crash, as we do know, can change everything. But everyone now just trying to find themselves into a rhythm to have this race sort itself out. Just 8 runners remaining here from the 11 that started. Everyone nicely situated and spaced just for a moment. But that gap starting to creep down towards 1 second here for Timothy Stroh. He knows he's doing enough, and he will be a heavy user of the tyres quickly, get himself to Barendregt. But we know Barendregt has been a lot more measured with the way he's been using his tyre usage. He definitely doesn't want to get into any trouble after what happened, his reprimand after Twin Ring Motegi. Richmond, of course, follows a week from today on the 20th of October. So keep that in mind, 21st of October for those, of course, in Oceania and the east of Asia. But Thijs Barendregt, 0.7 of a second the gap. Everitt really dropping back now. He's dropped back to about 3 seconds at this point in time off of the lead. And Paletta knows that he's got work to do to chase that gap back. Barendregt doing just enough to keep Stroh there. Stroh's at that awkward stage now where he's got to close in 1/10 at a time. He only managed to close a couple hundredths on that attempt around, as the gap to Morales is about a back straight that they have to deal with. Into the pits then comes Ollie Peters on his 68th lap of the circuit. Didn't look like he made any contact with anything. Just needing to make that second stop after having to pit so early in the race. So that will drop him to about 4 laps down. But there's the gap you can see on screen, 0.6 of a second. And there is Peters in the pit, looking to get service, and will be out and away again. Looking to get up to speed and finding himself back in this race. Look promising for a little bit for Ollie Peters, as there is Barendregt, your leader. And again, that gap 0.6 second as they stay patient. Out of the pits comes Peters, then down low. You don't quite see it on screen, but Peters is going to be just behind them, out on track. And the work now is for Leonardo Paletta. knows he's got to wake up and smell the coffee and get himself onto the rear as quickly as he possibly can. Everitt's tyres are going to go in this stint. At what point, though, will be the real question, as up high goes Ollie Peters, letting through the drivers around. Everitt going through. Andy Scott doing a great job as well in 7th place, quietly running his own race today. Morales as well in 6th. After speeding in the pits, he would have been hoping for a little bit more. But Timothy Stroh struggling there on that lap. Didn't do anything too untoward, just didn't have the pace in comparison. In fact, it was the lap before that was a 24.9. And that's why he's now back outside of a second again. So maybe he's used all the tyre to get there. And has nothing left in reserve with 25 laps to go. Barendregt driving a fantastic race from the front. Stroh in 2nd, Everitt in 3rd. And another quick driver into the fold for Everitt versus Barendregt is certainly going to spice up this championship. Morales has had his moment, so too Leonardo Paletta. But you do just feel at this point in time that Stroh could be a huge difference maker down the stretch. Everitt looking pretty solid in 3rd. And it's about 2.7 seconds to Leonardo Paletta, who's doing all that can be done. Now, I wonder here if this is the wise decision by the 2 Crest cars, whether they would put Ollie Peters back in front of Everitt, use him as a tow, drag him along the track for the remaining laps of the race just to cover off Leonardo Paletta. That might be an option that we do see. Of course, Everitt is on those older tyres, and that's what he'll be managing, 1.3 seconds the gap. If Everitt hasn't pitted within an operating window where he can get the fuel home, he might just have to save some late on in the session. So that's another thing that is just nipping away at the heels, potentially. But Barendregt still in control. Timothy Stroh in 2nd. The gap as they cross the line, extending to 1.341. The difference over that last lap, 0.02 of a second as they last cross the line. Leonardo Paletta in 4th. Dave Steadman is 5th. And I'm pretty sure the last thing that anyone wants to see is dramas late on. Alfredo Morales is a lap down, is next to be lapped by Thijs Barendregt, but not quite there. Ollie Peters continuing to follow. There is Barendregt, your leader. Knows he's 1/5 of the race away from picking this one off, and Everitt, give him some credit here, has kept that gap, Timothy Stroh, at around 2 seconds. On 10 lap older tyres, 11 lap older tyres, he is managing it at this point in time. And that gap now down to 1.5 seconds. So Everitt might still have a chance here. Took 0.3 that last lap. Can keep it on this pace, he'll be there. If he doesn't, and he won't. It's as simple as that. Still, a lot of ifs and maybes in the final stages of this race. Gap extends out by a 1/10 this time. Timothy Stroh responding with a 24.6. Everitt a 24.6 of his own. It's a couple hundredths away. Still 1.5 seconds. He's got to try and get to 1 second, and this is maybe where you start thinking about how you place your drivers. At 84, they go on to here of 100. Another 1/10 taken off. Barendregt 1.8 seconds to the good here. Tim Stroh doing just about enough at this point in time. Paletta still at 2.6 seconds. Not much more to be had. And Steadman about 4 seconds ahead, 5 seconds ahead, being lap down fodder at this point in time. There's your leader going through 3 and 4. Really a race that has calmed down after the early forays of incidents which certainly got everybody a little bit G'd up. But now the gap starts to come back to Barendregt here. 1.5 seconds Everitt to Stroh, but now 1.5 seconds Stroh to Barendregt. Everitt understeering through one. So it's the point where the tyres have just started to let go, lap 86. Barendregt doing enough here, 24.8. 24.6 from Stroh, and Everitt comes in because he knew he couldn't make it last. So a sterling effort by Alex Everitt, but it is going to be a big points loss. He should come out around Alfredo Morales then, so 5th or 6th. And this is going to be interesting. Stroh pulling that gap back into 1.2, only temporarily. Barendregt getting the message, but it's now 1.1. Everitt out of the pit and will be well ahead of Morales and Scott. So he will get himself up to speed. 5th place it will be for Alex Everitt at this point in time, barring any troubles late on. But there is Stroh, 1 second the gap. 12 laps, now 11.5. Get himself into range of Barendregt and to overtake for the victory. This is maximum damage from Barendregt, leading this race, qualified the car in 5th position, slowly made a way through to get up into place. 9/10 of a second, only 4 drivers on the lead lap, with Leonardo Paletta 4 seconds adrift then of this group. All behind in the wall. Ollie Peters tags the wall. Now, we don't quite know how much turn is left in the car, or whether it'll be another trip down to the pits. It's going to be a stay out a little bit longer, but that would have been a concern. Gap now down 0.8 of a second. Lap 91 of 100. 10 to go. It'll be 9 at the line. Stroh is just quietly saddling down these places as Andy Scott gets overtaken by Morales. That would be for a lap position. And don't count out Leonardo Paletta here. With a 24.4 over that last lap. He took 0.6 out of those drivers in front. Gap comes back out to 0.9 of a second, but a 24.2 from Paletta. He took 0.8 of a second on that lap. Paletta is absolutely surging late. I think he was looking to do maximum fuel save through the mid part of the stint, and he wants to attack. He's still going to get past Ollie Peters. That's going to be a difficult challenge as he goes full bore forward. 24.4. Gets the gap now to Stroh to 1.4 seconds. Flies by. My goodness, this could be a late surge in this race that gets it done. Barendregt searching high. Stroh searching for a high line as well, seeing if there's anything there. Leonardo Paletta is absolutely romping forward. And the gap comes down by another 0.6 of a second to the lead, with 6 laps to go when they next cross the line. As Leonardo Paletta timed this perfectly, the Italian absolutely surging. You feel he can't be held up by Timothy Stroh. He's got to get it done within a lap. And could this be the retaliation needed after a race victory went awry at Motegi? 1.2. The top 3 find themselves in. He's within half a second now. Stroh within 0.7, but here comes Paletta. Looking high, trying to get that run down low off of the exit as the tyres start to fall away from Timothy Stroh. Stroh's got no drive. Paletta's going to go the long way around and moves up into 2nd position with 5 laps to go. Ollie Peters has the box seat to it. Andy Scott looking very slow as he gets lapped. Steadman as well getting lapped. They're going to have to dance through traffic here. That's going to take a lap away from these drivers. Paletta still a second the gap. Has he done everything to get himself up into 2nd place and left nothing in reserve for the win? Stroh very much is going to take 3rd, I think, from this one. Ollie Peters trying to get some laps back. He's 1 lap away. But Barendregt still in command. What's the gap as they cross? 7/10 of a second. 3 laps to go. It's not out of sight for Leonardo Paletta just yet. The only 3 drivers are on the lead lap here. And I tell you what, Barendregt has timed this one absolutely fantastically if he's been able to hold on. Paletta unable to make any damage this lap. 2 to go. Still 7/10 of a second. You feel it'll take a Barendregt mistake to get himself back into it. The 2 and the 22 are there. I think Paletta may have just run out of steam here. We're coming to the white flag lap at Texas Motor Speedway. Everybody has been watching Barendregt lead this race and control it. It looked for a moment like Paletta could do something. But at 7/10 of a second, ultimately, I think he's going to run out. Barendregt stays nice and low off of 2. And now just 3 and 4 away. Fort Worth, I'll tell you what, you fought very admirably, Leonardo Paletta. Thijs Barendregt will come to the checker and will take a victory, an important one at Texas Motor Speedway. Paletta will be second. Stroll on debut will take third. And crucially, big damage done in the championship. Everitt can only manage 5th after tagging the wall coming out of turn 2 in the mid stages of the race, which converted him onto a 2-stop strategy. Barendregt, that's a way to silence the critics. And we'll take the championship lead now, heading over to Richmond a week from now. There's the confirmation of results. 3 drivers only on the lead lap. Barendregt, Paletta and Timothy Stroh, with Dave Steadman 4th, Alex Everitt in 5th, Alfredo Morales, Andy Scott 7th, Ollie Peters in 8th, your 3 retirees, Jeremy Pronk, Jürgen Pedersen and Fran Herrera, not having love at Texas Motor Speedway. We are going to get a chance to chat with some drivers here, get a bit of an understanding. Thijs Barendregt joins us right now, fresh out of the car. Thijs, that must have been a little bit concerning in the final couple of laps, seeing how quickly Paletta was encroaching on you.
Yeah, it was scary. I know, like, I had a lap more of fuel in the car than Timothy had. So I wasn't scared about Timothy, but I was like running normal, and then like with 15 to go, I realized, like, oh, I have to save like half a lap of fuel. And then I was like, where did Leonardo come from? Man, he drove fantastic. And then the car just started like exiting turn 4. I was like, oh no, what's going on? Don't run out.
What's going on? Well, you managed to get yourself there, half a second the margin. How important as well is this victory for you, seeing as Alex comes home in P5 after tagging the wall, and something for you to take the championship lead heading over towards Richmond?
Well, I didn't expect that. I thought like a few other guys like Timothy and Jeremy, they looked pretty strong in practice and in quali, and I was worried that Alex would just finish like 1 place behind me and I wouldn't be gaining much in the championship. Finishing first was really a surprise for me, and Alex in P5 is really good for the championship. So I'm sorry for Alex that he hit the wall, but championship-wise, I'm happy.
Well, you're very happy. Before we let you go, Thijs, shout out sponsors. Who gets it done for you?
BRT put an amazing livery on the car for this week. Gonna run it for the whole season now. Amazing with the white on the side, and they've done a great job supporting me. So, thank you.
No worries at all. Thijs Barendregt picking up the victory. Alex Everitt then had not had the best of days. He finished P5 overall. Alex, 1 tag of the wall and the championship lead's gone.
Yeah, sums it up really. I had to change my strategy as soon as I hit the wall. I figured, right, time to go to 2-stop. And I was really hoping everyone would run out of fuel and have to take a second stop. And if they did need a second stop, I would have undercut them because I was half a second quicker every lap when I came back out from the second stop. But it just wasn't meant to be. Points lost, I suppose.
Now, here's a question that I think will be important to ask. You found yourself with a lot of drivers, especially in the early stages, finding themselves in trouble, finding themselves in the barriers. No cautions here today as they all managed to drop to the apron. Did that really maybe put a little bit of perspective into how drivers are going about, expecting that early caution maybe 3 or 4 times and not getting any?
Yeah, it was a bit of a strange one. We were in heavy conversation about that on Discord, but yeah, I think a lot of people were banking on cautious. I know I was, but yeah, came as a real surprise. Not really sure why. It's just blind luck, really. Guarantee at Richmond next week we'll get plenty of more cautions.
Well, Richmond next week. How do you bounce back?
I like Richmond. Every time I've raced there in Indy, I've won. About 3 times, I admit, but yeah, it's a track I like, and it's actually a speedway where, well, like Phoenix, we need to brake for the corners, so it's a different kettle of fish for everyone. It's really going to bring out another element of these drivers, so I'm really looking forward to it. This is the part of the season I think I can bounce back.
Well, we will see 1 week from today. Alex Everitt there joining us, picking up then a 5th place finish from that. That's going to pretty much get it done for us then here today at Crest Autosport, your iRacing IndyCar Oval Series getting itself into play, and another twist in the tail here from Texas. It was fought very hard, but it fought worth for a reason, and the worth is valued by Thijs Barendregt. Massive thanks to the Crest Autosport team getting it done here today, as well as our sponsors, Apex Tracks, Track Racer, lovely stickers, 603 Autosport, Digital Motorsport, Esports Sim, and a GP box. I've been Jake Sperry, your producer has been William Foyle. This has been a race where Thijs Barendregt needed to bounce back from the reprimand. Paletta threw everything at it late, but just ran out of steam to get to victory lane. Barendregt to the top, and with a championship lead to boot, Richmond, the next challenge on the horizon.